They used to be the most powerful pair in the pulpit. They led worship, spoke to large groups of people, and built an empire of faith. But something bad was going on behind the lectures and the lights. There was betrayal, court drama, and rumors of control and manipulation. Don't just be shocked by the truth about Bishop Clarence McClendon and his ex-wife Tammera. You no longer believe what you thought you knew about them. You won't believe who got what either. And why the church didn't say anything. No doubt you've heard of Bishop Clarence McClendon if you've been interested in televangelists and megachurch leaders. Bishop McClendon became famous across the country as a spiritual leader, known for his bold speeches, sharp suits, and strong voice, but his personal life has gotten just as much attention as his sermons. People used to think that his marriage to Tammera McClendon was a divine union, but it ended in a storm of scandal, lies, and charges that shocked both the congregation and the rest of the world. What really took place behind closed doors? Were they really that bad at being married? It could have been cheating, greed, psychic manipulation, or something even more sinister. What has Bishop McClendon been saying about it all? He has been building a new life with a different woman while still preaching to thousands of people. We're going to get into the hidden truth about the breakup that rocked one of the most famous black gospel artists of our time in this video. In this talk, you will learn about the early years of their ministry, the warning signs that were ignored, the cases, the shocking court records, and how the trouble they caused is still feeling today. You should read all the way to the end because we found facts and private information that have never been fully explained before. Trust me, this is where things get messy. Take a seat and press the like button. Let's look at the real story of Bishop Clarence McClendon and Tammera, his ex-wife. It's not just about a broken marriage. Power, looks, faith, and everything else are all part of it. Before the problems with the public, the news, and the charges, there was a start that looked good. Clarence McClendon wasn't always the leader of a huge church who was seen on TV all over the country. He was a gifted young man with a fire for the word and a passion for ministry. Like many leaders in the Black Pentecostal movement, he came from a poor family. In the early 1990s, Clarence started to make a lot of noise in the church world. He had charm, a deep understanding of religion, and most importantly, he had an undeniable stage presence. And as his mission grew, so did his power. He became famous for his powerful lectures, messages about wealth, and sharp, almost Hollywood-like appearance. People say that there is a great woman behind every great man. Now comes Tammera McClendon. Tammera wasn't just married to Bishop McClendon, she was with him as a pilot. People who were close to the ministry at the time say Tammera played a big role in helping him become the leader of the early church. From running the office to leading the women's ministry, Tammera gave the growing church audience balance, warmth, and a sense of connection. They were a team and were often seen at church events, conferences, and even talks with the media. Their picture was very well put together. We are strong, driven, and united in Christ. They even taught other couples about the holiness of marriage, spiritual closeness, and how important God is in relationships at marriage conferences they put on together. They stood for many what a godly union should look like. Clarence himself taught a lot about how important it was to respect one's wife, keep promises, and run a home in a way that was consistent with the Bible. But as their mission grew, there were signs of trouble. First, it was subtle, not as easy to ignore. Some people in the church started talking up. Then there was a sudden change in who was leading the church. Tammera was no longer playing parts that people could see. Event posters slowly stopped having her name on them. It was said that she was very unhappy behind the scenes, and not just with the church. She was also unhappy with the man she thought God had given her. Still, nothing had been made public, and everyone else thought everything was fine. Things were about to change, though. They don't want you to know this shocking fact, though. Just a few months from now, this power couple's once glamorous image would fall apart totally. There would be lawsuits, rumors, and a very public divorce. There is a history behind every famous divorce that is generally kept out of the public eye, especially among church leaders. Before it was officially announced, though, people close to Bishop Clarence McClendon and his wife at the time, Tammera, started to notice that something was very wrong. Bishop McClendon's fame was bigger and better than ever by the early 2000s. He became famous across the country thanks to Trinity Broadcasting Network, TBN, which gave him a huge TV audience and made him more influential than just in his local church. Things were going well for his mission outside, but they were falling apart at home. People who knew the McClendons started to leak small but disturbing information. It was said that Tammera was feeling more and more cut off from choices made by the church's leadership. Former members say she was slowly taken out of important events and wasn't even asked for her opinion on big church decisions. So said a previous elder about the change. It seemed like she was being erased. She used to be the center of our mission to women. Then all of a sudden, she was gone. But the fact that nothing was clear made this worse and more painful. The crowd didn't know why Tammera wasn't here anymore. There were no answers or comments. There was only silence. This let a lot of rumors in. They did it. There were claims of control, mental distance, and even manipulation, but at the time, Tammera herself did not confirm any of them in public. But one thing was certain, no longer did she look like the happy, driven woman she used to be. Then the big surprise came. In 2000, the public learned that Tammera had asked for a divorce. People who are Christians were shocked. A lot of people looked up to the McClendons as the perfect model of a godly marriage. Now the whole base was falling apart. People were more shocked by how quickly Bishop McClendon moved on. Bishop McClendon married Priscilla Delgado just 1 week after the divorce was finalized. It looked terrible for a lot of people who had backed the McClendons during their rise to power. Take a moment to think about that for a week. After 16 years of marriage, this wasn't a peaceful end or a polite time of grief. No, it happened quickly, out of the blue, and caused a lot of disagreement. A lot of people started to wonder if this marriage was planned before the divorce was finalized. Was there something going on behind the scenes? Besides that, how did Tammera feel about being changed so quickly? Right now, the people in the church have argued about this period with strong feelings. McClendon's actions were defended by some who said he had been suffering in quiet and that God had freed him from that covenant. People in the congregation, especially women, felt betrayed, and not just because of Tammera. They felt betrayed because they had emotionally invested in the McClendons' mission as a team. The divorce papers that were made public didn't make it very clear what caused the official split, but the speed with which they got married again raised red flags everywhere. Bishop McClendon told his ministry team through short scripts that God had helped him move forward and that he was following his spiritual purpose. But for many, it felt empty, like a well-polished reason to explain why the time was off. At the same time, Tammera decided to be quiet. She completely shut herself off from the public eye and never talked about her personal problems or agreed to interviews. Many people still think of her silence as a sign of strength, not weakness, the quiet pride of a woman who didn't want to fight in public. But now things get even more difficult. It was almost like history was repeating itself, only this time it was a different woman McClendon married. His new wife started to play the same part as Tammera. The crowd was told to forget about what had happened and carry on as if nothing had happened. The sudden divorce and even more sudden remarriage caused a lot of confusion, anger, and disbelief in the Christian society, especially in the Black church world. Bishop Clarence McClendon had set himself up for years, not only as a speaker, but also as a moral compass and an example of godly leadership, spiritual discipline, and honesty. But when word got out that he had married someone else only a week after getting divorced from Tammera, many of his fans started to doubt everything. Church leaders, members, and people who watched his national TV show were left wondering, did this man really live up to his words when he talked about bond and commitment? Was he mean to his wife or even hurt her physically before the split was final? If that's the case, what did that say about the spiritual basis of his whole ministry? In later talks, Bishop McClendon said he had not been cheating on his wife, but the way things looked said otherwise, and how people see things is very important in ministry. Many people thought that the time of his second marriage was right. It seems like a breach of both trust and honesty. Online boards were full of people talking. Christian critics, spiritual leaders, and blogs that write about the gospel didn't hold back. Some called it a spiritual scandal, while others went even further and said Bishop McClendon was using the pulpit for personal gain and using God's name to make choices that would have destroyed the ministry of the average person. People who used to attend his Reformation Church of Los Angeles started coming out against him. Some church members are said to have left in protest because they thought the church had become more about control and performance than about Christ. There was no one to blame, which made things worse. Even though there was a lot of public debate, there was no official church discipline, sabbatical, or attempt to make peace with Tammera. But Bishop McClendon kept preaching and presenting his TV shows as if nothing had happened. This is where things got even more complicated. Even though the spiritual community was split, famous Christians and mega preachers didn't say much. A lot of people who had spoken on stages with Bishop McClendon before and built their whole careers around talking about how important biblical marriage is, didn't talk about it in public. Some say it was because they didn't want to judge a Christian brother. But don't be fooled, the public was watching and many people weren't buying the quiet. Behind the scenes, TBN started to make Bishop McClendon less visible, and he lost some of his power on some Christian networks. Even though he still had some loyal fans, the damage had already been done. In the gospel world, he used to have an image that was almost untouchable, but it took a hit, and some say he never fully recovered. In an interview in 2005, McClendon talked briefly about the issue. He said that people were criticizing him unfairly and without knowing the whole story. He claimed that everything was going according to plan and that his new marriage was a gift from God, but a lot of people were not sure. When it came to Tammera, her silence kept saying a lot. She never replied to public criticism or fought back against assumptions, but her silence, respect, and refusal to participate became a quiet sign of grace and strength, especially for Christian women who used to look up to her. Some people were so moved by her that they started online support groups to talk about how to heal mentally and emotionally after being betrayed in ministry marriages. This shows that even though she stopped preaching, her influence did not go away. And this is where things get dark. A number of years later, claims came forward that McClendon had become increasingly controlling and bossy, especially around women. Several former staff and members, both men and women, talked about a culture where people didn't question the leadership and were supposed to be loyal to McClendon above all else. Even though these claims never led to official charges or public investigations, they made it seem like McClendon's style of ministry might have put power over responsibility. You may be thinking where they are now that the news has died down and the drama has died down. What happened to Bishop Clarence McClendon and Tammera, the woman who used to stand next to him? First, let's talk about Bishop McClendon. Bishop McClendon did what a lot of famous people try to do after the scandal over his divorce and remarriage. His name changed. Through his TV ministry, foreign missions, and online platforms, he worked hard to fix his image. He kept running the Church of the Harvest in Los Angeles, and then his organization changed its name to the Place of Grace. The job that Tammera used to have was taken over by his wife, Priscilla Delgado McClendon. The two of them are often seen together at conferences, on TV shows, and in social media posts. They continued to spread their brand of spirit-led teachings about leadership, healing, and wealth. But no matter how hard people tried, the stain of the past never really went away. McClendon still had a small group of loyal followers, but the wider gospel and Christian society stayed cautious. It became harder to get invited to big Christian TV shows and national platforms. His performances on TBN decreased over time. The trouble in his personal life was now a fixed part of his spiritual history. He was never canceled, but he was never the same. Allow us to now talk about Tammera. In contrast to Clarence, Tammera stopped being seen by anyone. She seemed to choose a road of private healing and personal growth after years of being in the spotlight, speaking on stages, serving in women's ministry, and traveling with her husband. There are no high-profile interviews, autobiographies that tell it all, or threats of violence. There is only silence and strength. Close friends and family of hers say she found peace away from the stage and turned her attention to faith, healing, and helping others behind the scenes. There were rumors that she went to therapy and later started helping other women who were going through the same things. But she never did this in public and never did it to get back at someone or feel validated. One reason why so many women still respect her is that she doesn't say much. But there's no doubt that her story will live on. A lot of women who used to look up to the McClendon marriage said that the breakup made them think again about what kingdom relationships are all about and whether the church does enough to hold male leaders responsible when they act badly morally or emotionally. Her leaving showed how many churches put preachers and their spouses on a pedestal, which is unhealthy and can hurt the people the church says it wants to help. Others also started to speak out, telling how they had been ignored, shamed, or forgotten in church marriages where power was imbalanced. Not because she spoke loudly, but because she was strong. Tammera's story gave people a voice. There's also the bigger spiritual talk that this saga started. Pastors, bishops, and other people who spread the message had to ask tough questions. Should people who work for the government be held to better standards? Can someone preach salvation while walking around in shame? How can churches help spouses who are left out or ignored after a divorce? The McClendon split is still talked about when people talk about church openness, spiritual abuse, and leadership ethics almost 20 years later. It's not just two people and a broken marriage anymore. It has to do with a structure that let it happen with almost no responsibility. And now for the emotional kicker. A lot of people are still curious. Did Bishop McClendon ever say sorry to Tammera? Not in a way that the many women and men who felt betrayed by what happened could see or hear. Not in public or in an official setting. There's still no clear answer. People can only guess. But for many, the damage was already done. After taking off all the layers, what about the rise, the fall, the anger, and the silence? What do we have left? A tale not only about a bishop and his ex-wife, but also about something much more important. Power can make people do bad things, looks can be mistaken for honesty, and people can be deeply flawed even in the greatest places. The Bishop Clarence McClendon may have rebuilt his platform, kept speaking, and moved on with his life, but people are still curious about him, not only about the choices he made, but also about how the modern church is set up so that those choices can't be questioned. Tammera McClendon is from the other side of the storm. She left everything with quiet pride. She didn't say anything back. She didn't say bad things about her ex-husband in public, and she didn't use her pain to get attention. She picked peace instead. And because of that, she gained respect that can't be bought from a pulpit. For people in the church, their story is more than just media guff. A story to teach us a lesson. It makes us think about what real accountability in service looks like. Put leaders on such a high perch that they forget their people. The most important question is whether we are saving marriage or the man behind the mic's reputation. In the end, it was clear, whether you liked it or not, in the end, the truth comes to the surface. This shows not only who someone says they are, but also who they've always been. Type your ideas in the box below. Do you think Bishop McClendon was spiritually honest in how he handled the situation? Did the church and the people treat Tammera fairly? What lessons can people of faith learn from their story? Leave your thoughts below. Please let us know what you think. Like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who needs to hear the truth behind the news if it changed the way you see things. It's not just tea. This is real life with real events and real healing. Thanks for seeing. Ask questions, pray, and look for the truth. Until we talk again.